But
Correct.
here's what one of the candidates we're supporting had to say regarding the shifty moves, I should say, that the Democratic establishment is up to.
Graham Plattner here, running for Senate up in Maine. I'm running against Susan Collins, AIPAC, Super PACs, the entire DC establishment. Now, I know that Janet Mills just got in this race, and you're probably receiving a mountain of fundraising texts and emails. I'm pretty new to this politics thing, but I've learned something over the past few weeks. When you donate to Chuck Schumer, when you donate to the big Democratic super PACs, what they do is share their lists with candidates that they like. They put their thumb on the scale. And what they do is they use access to those lists of donors, those lists of people who have given, like yourself, and they use that to give it to the candidates that they like.
This is one of the downsides, if not the ultimate downside, to ever having to contribute through Act Blue. This is one of the reasons why no one ever wants to contribute through Act Blue. And the good news is that with Revolutionary Change PAC, you have the option of not using Act Blue if you so choose. Why is this important? Because you may find a candidate that you like that is running for office. They happen to be running as a Democrat. Zoran Mamdani comes to mind. And you end up contributing, but the next thing you know, you're getting this bombardment every single day from other candidates like Janet Mills. When you donate to us, how do you think they get that information? They get it because Act Blue is an arm of the Democratic Party establishment.
Correct.
And so Plattner's spot on why this is such a bad thing.
But I also want to say that the reason that Act Blue has essentially a monopoly on it, and I forget the red team one, there's one on the red team too, that's the same thing. It's because of how integrated they are with compliance with the FEC. So as now somebody who is overseeing a super PAC, I cannot stand the idea that we're using Act Blue. It grosses me out. But at the end of the day, it is what is now integral in having decent compliance. We do offer Anodot, and we also can accept checks, and there's a PO box. So, I mean, there are other ways, but I understand it frustrates people. But it's one of those things where it's just ubiquitous now. Those two things are now like ubiquitous as far as compliance with the FEC. So in order for us to be able to exist, that's the menu.
And it's not the menu that we want at all.
No, but it is infinitely more efficient because it is a monopoly. So they're completely like integrated with the FEC.
Colin, please, can I please have that clip and pull the Plattner clip? So Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I think we can both agree has been a pretty solid entertainer. He is somebody who I get in my gut tells me, and he's Ashkenazi, but my gut tells me that he's not on board with this. And he unfortunately has been very quiet about it, which again is an unforgivable offense in many respects as far as I'm concerned. But I do think for somebody who comes from the worst element of the Zionist brigade, and he has not embraced it the way that virtually every single Ashkenazi has, I'm giving him the respect of calling him an Ashkenazi by its proper terminology.
Can we say shout out to Hannah Einbinder, that girl who won that award? I forget. Her mother is from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And she's white and very Ashkenazi. So I'm just saying there's a couple.
So even though we have been very clear in the direction that we're pretty aware of where things are going with the Democratic Party establishment for 2028. It is pretty obvious that let's just say that the chips are lining up for Gavin Newsom. I don't think anybody doubts for a second that he's the one that's going to be the front runner and the favorite to get the nomination, not become the president, but certainly become the nominee in the Democratic Party. Here's some interesting tidbit that Mr. Levitt decided to point out. I didn't realize he has a podcast. I've already reached out to him to see if he would be interested in coming on our channel. We'll see what happens.
Gavin Newsom just signed a bill into law that claims to protect kids from predatory AI companions, but I don't think he's telling the truth about that. He did just sign a bill into law, but I've been talking to lawyers and policy experts about this bill, and they say it's not going to do anything, that it's chock full of the kind of loopholes and legal language that's been letting big tech off the hook for a long time. And while he signed this do-nothing bill, he vetoed a good bill that really would have held big tech's feet to the fire and made them change their products to be better for our kids. But Mr. Newsom was too scared to sign it. What was he scared of, you ask? Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that just weeks before the deadline to sign or veto all these bills that could regulate AI, big tech, Google, Meta, OpenAI launched these huge super PACs worth hundreds of millions of dollars aimed at attacking candidates who might regulate AI. And I guess Mr. Newsom was scared that if those hundreds of millions of dollars were directed at attacking him, it might hurt his chances at winning president in a few years.
Oh, thank you for that information. I appreciate that. Thank you for the heads up. I wouldn't have known that. Not that there's any universe wherein I would have supported Gavin Newsom anyway, right? Like it really, it does. I thought he was a douche before. I still think he's a douche, but I do appreciate the information.
So do I.
When he runs. So it's really frustrating and disappointing that this guy's political ambitions have now put our kids in harm's way. And it's sad because there's a lot to like about Governor Newsom, I think.
No, there isn't. And this is the bad side of what he's saying, because again, he's trying to preface it with, but I really want you to know that I think Gavin Newsom's this great guy. No, he's not, Joseph. No. You actually were spot on.
He's just, I mean, I guess that's just a bridge too far.
We'll
finish out what he has to say, but then we're going to get to the really important part of all this.
He's been doing a good job at standing up to Donald Trump and the rise of authoritarianism in this country. But, you know, in my opinion, the rise of authoritarianism here and all over the world originates in large part with these algorithms, these attention maximizing algorithms that drive the social media products and now the AI products that make so much money for these companies. So if you are really going to stand up to authoritarianism, you need to be ready to stand up to these big tech companies.
But then again, he's not really standing up to them, is he, Joe? He's feigning concern, but only to the extent that it will not in any way, shape, or form hurt his ability to raise $1 billion to become president of the United States. And that's
who
what you have.
Do you think he's going to raise that money from?
Silicon Valley, baby.
That's amazing. He's not going to bite the hand that feeds him. Don't be ridiculous.
Now, I think everyone in the chat, and Jen, you as well, would agree that this is a very level-based, reasonable critique, not fully where I would want him to go, but I would say for somebody who is a fairly noted, even at times, dare I say, A-list actor, you know, he definitely offered a fairly acceptable critique for somebody who's in Hollywood, I would say. Would that be a fair interpretation?
Well, I've always really liked him. And yeah, I agree with Victoria. He was very good in Don Juan. That was good. Don John. I remember that. It was good.
The movie that I heard is really good to see that he did was Looper with Bruce Willis. I still haven't seen that one, but he's Bruce Willis.
My vibe.
Well, you and I definitely differ on, you know, style and circumstance as far as movies are concerned. However, what I will say is that the most troubling part about this, I wouldn't even necessarily say milquetoast type of criticism of the obvious frontrunner for president of the United States on the Democratic side in 2028. It's the commentary on his Instagram page. It's the response to him making this video from the people who support, I guess, like him. Bro, he's trying to defeat Republicans from gerrymandering themselves into permanent power in Washington. And he's the only prominent Democrat doing anything to stop it. And you're choosing to attack him, of all people, with all of this other authoritarianism going on? Come on, man. That's the first one. Aren't you a Trump supporter? This is a good one. Love you, respect you, acknowledge that this is an issue. So all those things, but you've got to read the room. We can worry about this down the road when it's way too late.
These are some very privileged followers that he has, which makes sense. Also, probably older people.
No, this guy actually wouldn't. You would look at this particular guy with his hat on backwards and his beard.
If that's him.
Yeah, assuming that it's him. And he says, Newsom is the only thing fighting tyranny right now. Love your films and you have a lot of talent, but this is dumb timing.
Yeah, see, that could, now, as far as I'm concerned, it's all bots. I don't believe, that's the problem, is that I don't think that's real. I don't believe that people are who they say they are unless I've met them personally. I don't believe in Avatar I can't believe anything. There's an entire actress now that's completely an AI actress.
Yeah, I saw that's insanity.
Shit. So I have taken to where unless I know the person is a real person, then I will assume AI until further notice.
Last one. Let's not turn against Newsom when he's the best we've got to fight MAGA. If that's the best you've got, you've already lost.
They've lost. The Democrats have nobody. They have nobody.
And to Joseph's credit, he actually responded and said, thanks, but honestly, I'm not convinced Newsom is the best option to fight MAGA. You're not convinced. Listen, first of all, it's not about fighting MAGA. It's about fighting the corporatocracy that has taken over this country. Now, if you think that the problem in this country is a bunch of goofy red hats that hate what this country's become, even though in many of their minds, their interpretation of what this country is and what it should be is a fool's errand because they do not understand how a society is to function properly. We're living in an austerity nightmare. They revere people that should not be revered. And a lot of that is misguidance. A lot of that is growing up in communities that are based on religious indoctrination. A lot of it is also based on this notion that American exceptionalism is above any criticism, and that Donald Trump is playing 5D chess and is truly on your side, is really looking out for your best interests. But I think it's safe to say that we know that that's not what's happening here. What it is reinforcing, even with somebody like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is pretty simple. If you're a shit lib, you are what is going to drag this country straight to hell. You're complaining about gerrymandering. We do not have honest elections in this country. Right. I don't give a fuck how many districts get gerrymandered. Exactly. You're never going to be represented as we the people. You are represented by and for corporate special interests. That is how this has been for multiple generations now. But let's pretend that we can actually get something solved by having these supposedly fair districts. And you're going to go, and the thing that they're fighting about now, that this is all being done along racial lines, let me assure you of one thing that I learned very quickly when it came to running in or helping run a congressional race against Wasserman Schultz. Some of the worst corruption you will ever find in politics is in the impoverished Black communities. And you know who it comes from? The bougie Black gatekeepers in the Democratic Party.
Otherwise known as?
What's the term?
The Black misleadership class.
There it is.
That's what the revolutionaries in Atlanta, the Stop Cop City, that's the term they use to describe the blue people that are in charge of their city.
I'll throw her name out there because I don't give a fuck. Grace Carrington, she's one of the worst.
I can't believe you're calling out names. Why do you? I still live here.
So Grace Carrington, who is somebody who has been a DCCCer, was a party chair of Broward County, along with another gentleman who I did like, and I still do. I think his intentions were much better. But it was obvious that this woman in particular, who had let's just say she was the whisperer of the Black community, had a very, very cordial, and probably still does, relationship with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So when we hear these stories about why are these communities so downtrodden and can never seem to get out of their way, well, one of those reasons is because you have people that are careerists like Grace and have to protect their fiefdom, their infrastructure, because that's more important. So when people get so caught up in this gerrymandering, that
Right.
it doesn't matter because you're not getting a living wage. You actually have people out there right now with everything that's going on, knowing full well that this country is heading straight for a cataclysmic collapse. We can't have single payer healthcare in the United States. And then you get AOCIA going on CNN yesterday. And what does she want to talk about? How we have to give healthcare to everyone in this country, even if they were in this country. I know you don't like the word and I won't use it, but there is such a thing as playing politics, knowing exactly how to play it, understand how to sell your ideology to people. You and I talked about this the other day. If you're looking for two leaders in this country right now that are on the two sides politically, that are the most recognized people, if you put Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie on one side and Bernie Sanders and AOC on the other side, and you told people that they had to support these two factions right now, who do you think is coming out on top?
I know who I'd vote for.
Well, I'm saying for being objective.
Can I say something about the MAGA thing? I feel like we're like 3 subjects ahead now, but like when we were talking about the MAGA people, I just find them to be useful idiots. They're just useful idiots for an oligarch class, just like the guy, whoever those libtards are in their chat, right? Whoever those people are in their chat, those are the useful idiots for the Democrats. It's the same difference. These people are they're just being used by this oligarchic class to believe that this whole thing is real.